Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my podcast. My name is Andrew, and today we will be talking about the new Colombo Plan Scholarship. And to help me out, I've enlisted the help of my friends Florence, who's on the left there, Richard in the middle, and that's me on the right. For all of you who don't know what the new Colombo Plan is, it is a signature initiative of the Australian government which aims to lift knowledge of the Indo-Pacific in Australia. This is done by supporting Australian undergraduates to study and undertake internships in the region. This comes in multiple forms like the mobility program and the mobility grants. Today I'll be speaking specifically about the scholarship, and this is open to every undergraduate in Australia, provided you meet the eligibility criteria. I actually recorded this earlier this year with the intention of releasing it around this time to help applicants who are going through the application process and the interview process and shed some light in uncertainties that we all had. I'd also like to flag that the plans that me and Florence and Richard will talk about for our scholarship programs was all prior to COVID-19. Unfortunately, the whole cohort, all 125 of us, have had to postpone and change our programs as we don't really know when and where we can actually go for our scholarship. So, with that, I hope this podcast helps you in some way. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or any other scholar as well. I'm sure we're all happy to help you out. Thank you and hope you enjoy.
Cool. So did you want to introduce yourself, Richard?
Yeah, hi. My name is Richard. I'm a 2020 new Colombo Plan Scholar going to Singapore. I do software engineering. I always had a bit of a passion for engineering, I like math. I'm pretty much the quintessential math kid, pretty much. Yeah. What about you, Florence? Would you just introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much ditto. I'm going to China. I'm a law student, and so I'm really basically keen for the New Colombo Scholarship because I think, as we'll talk later, it's a great opportunity. And I first started thinking about it actually earlier this year, so I went on exchange to China. And that's when I started thinking that, wow, I'd love to come back here more and see the opportunities that can be, found. So yeah, I suppose that's me in a nutshell.
Why did you want to do it, Richard?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Basically for me, the stars really aligned for me, honestly. I got really lucky. My current boss, he had offices in Singapore. Singapore had really good engineering. I spoke a bit of Chinese, and my Chinese, all my family members were teasing me for my Chinese. It was wow, I remember I was going back to China, right, and they were just wow, 你的中文实在那么差了, which is just in Chinese means, wow, your Chinese is so bad. It was when you were a child, damn, your Chinese is so much better than this. I was oh.
It's funny how quickly you think when I came back. I remember when I came back from China to here, my Chinese, it still is, but it was quite good in China, but it's degenerated so quickly.
Exactly.
It just really disappears down the drain.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's a good chance for all of us to reconnect to our cultural backgrounds and stuff like that.
Or discover new cultures as well,
Yeah,
which I think is
cultures.
what New Colombo Scholarship is all
and
about.
on top of that, it's an incredible experience, right? You are getting paid, you're getting paid and you're getting covered for a lot of things that you would usually have to have to pay out of your own pocket to go on exchange.
No, completely.
Yeah, on top of that, it was pretty funny. So I remember during my exchange seminar, I don't know if your person said this, so they were just wow, get ready to come back to Australia, culturally aligned and broke. And I was oh, okay. maybe I won't come back broke, but I'll be alright, I guess, right? Yeah. So basically, it's just a lot of different things, right? Good universities. My boss was working over there, and plus if you don't have an internship right now, I think the NCP is even more lucrative towards you. Because my one regret, actually, I don't know if any of you knew this, but I was emailed about a new Colombo plan last year, and I was told to actually apply for it. But they were just yeah, you seem like a really good candidate. You seem like you have
tick. Yeah.
Yeah, they were just and then because I didn't look at my emails closely enough, I missed the deadline last year.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm this year's scholar, and that's so depressing.
Well, also, I remember similarly, I didn't miss the deadline last year, but I did apply. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we'll discuss this later, but I actually didn't make it past the first round. So I think, if you're listening to this and you haven't gotten it before, or you've applied unsuccessfully, definitely give it another go. Like, I remember when I was at my interview stage, I met a number of people who had applied the year before and they'd made it to various stages but just hadn't made it through. So yeah, I think don't give up on it, because at the end of the day, like, it's the NCP is obviously a fantastic scholarship, which is designed to increase relationships in the Asia-Pacific, as it should, because obviously that's where the future of Australia lies. But I think more than that, as a result, it's quite competitive, right? So, you know, maybe these things happen at certain times, but I suppose just don't give up, really.
Just adding on to that quickly, like, it's actually pretty intimidating when you go to your first and second round people, because you're surrounded by, like, I don't know about you guys, but like during my briefing before I did my NCP, like first round and second round, all that stuff, like I was surrounded by like a bunch of people during briefings, and it was so intimidating because you could see like you could see like so many different people like trying to like get the scholarship too, and it's just like, yikes, am I really going to be better than all of them?
I remember I was just saying, like, so for those of you who don't know, basically the process of applying for the New Colombo Scholarship, so like the first process is that you apply to your uni, and then your uni shortlists you. So to be shortlisted by the uni, this can, like, for example, I know that at UCID, like, it involved both a written application, which was designed to resemble the final product at the end, and it also had an interview, which was they got you and they. I don't know if that's the same interview. It's the same. And then after that, you apply directly to the government. And so for us, it's pretty much the same criteria. It's about 250 words each. It's like show how you're adaptable, have good, have academic excellence, etc. And then if you get past that stage, then the final stage is the interview with the people. So that final interview, actually, because obviously it's a really important part of the Australian government strategy, right? So they do have some really impressive names on that interview panel. And not only that, but obviously you're surrounded by really impressive people, right? Because obviously to get past through all those hurdles, like you've got to be of a certain caliber, or not even caliber, just have to be of a certain perseverance, really. So I remember when I was at the interview, like I was so, because some people... So the final interview, so like for the government, I remember because I was surrounded by a bunch of people and they were all like, I was every single person I talked to, I was like, you were getting it. Like I was like, you were, but like, which shows, right? Like at the end of the day, like it's a hard thing to get. Like, and
it really is, yeah. Because I remember like I was doing my, I remember like my NCP story was horrible. Like I did it like, so the day I was supposed to fly out, I had an exam on the same day, like a couple hours before. So I did my exam, and it was for a really hard subject as well. I did my exam. I went to Canberra. And like I arrived at like really, really dead late. I arrived to my hotel like at 2 a.m, something dead late, and I was panicking. I was just like, should I not eat? Should I eat? Like I booked the buffet for the morning and stuff like that. And I was just like, yikes, should I eat? So I ended up just like running to a Thai restaurant at 3 a.m.
Oh my god!
Just like in my jacket, just like I need to get food. I gotta look.
We also remember we also ate at the Thai restaurant because I met these two guys, so Richard and Andrew. We all met each other on the first day, and so like. We were all really hungry and like we were all just sort of a bit pooped out that day, and I was like, I'm just starving, and Richard's like, I know a good Thai restaurant, and then we ate and it was nice. I regret nothing. It was really good.
It was that Thai restaurant, and then after like I came back to my hotel at like 4 o'clock, and I was just sitting there like looking at my notes like, oh no, I need to read through all this stuff and memorize it, but like in the end it's just like I just went to sleep. I was like, yeah, maybe if I get some more sleep I'll get into it, but like it just sort of shows you that like when they, because I sort of realized another thing, which was just like the questions are designed to be simplistic. It's not designed to trick you up, but it's like it's true. More just like they're looking. It's not so much they're looking at like they're not trying to give you hard questions so they can see how you respond. They're more looking into like what degree you respond to and how well you respond to it, and just like measure you up based on that, I think. So yeah.
Did you want to give like a quick outline of like what the NCP sort of entails if you want to apply, Florence? Like
you mean like the program or like
the program?
Yeah, sure. So the program, so NCP is really great. Like my brother described this really well. To be honest, it's more of a fellowship because the only program that you have to undertake is an exchange. So that's the compulsory. So maybe it's about 3 to 4 months or whatever the semester is to the uni you're going to. Then the remaining components you can choose to add on. So for example, there's an internship, if you want to do an internship for 6 months, a mentorship, that has to be undertaken alongside other stuff. And then there's also, which is, I really, really like treasure, is the final one, which is sort of the language component. So you can learn language full time for up to 6 months. So depending on the sort of component you undertake, there's different funding available. So for example, for language, it's up to 10K. And obviously the NCP also gives you a stipend, so every monthly for as long as you're there, and also does an establishment allowance and a flight allowance and stuff as well. Yeah, so it's pretty like all encompassing. And obviously what's important to, I think people obviously this is a case with students as well, because I know a lot of my friends want to go to the US and England, but not necessarily Asia Pacific. The great thing about the Asia Pacific is that it's really varied and diverse, and I think people overestimate how scary it is. Like, I think once you go there and like once you find out more, at the end of the day, not knowing is what's scary. But I think and I think that's why the scholarship is so good, because it incentivizes you to do things that you otherwise wouldn't.
And not just that, but I think it's like everyone sort of just needs to realize that like ranking, the university ranking, even though it's like it's important to some degree, it's not like the end all and be all.
No,
so
completely,
like,
yeah.
A lot of people like I see know like they're like, I need to go to MIT, I need to go to Cambridge and stuff like that, and it's just like it's good for you, but like in the end, there's good universities in Asia Pacific as well, especially with the scholarship. Like it really incentivizes you to push towards.
Like
them.
I don't know if are you going to NUS?
NTU.
NTU, like for example, like the ones in Singapore, like they're great
Yeah,
unis.
like-
And I think people just like they're like Asia Pacific has some fantastic unis
Like,
to go to.
actually, I think NTU is actually roughly on par with like Cambridge for engineering or something like
And
that.
as- and as well-
no one knows
Yeah.
that. It's like, hey, I went to Nanyang Technological University. It's like, oh, all right, who cares?
Like, what's that?
They search up the rank. It's like, oh, okay, you're actually pretty.
It's the same with
decent.
like unis in China, so like Fudan, Peking,
Yeah.
Tsinghua, like they're all fantastic unis
Yeah.
to go to, and
Yeah,
the one
they're-
I'm going to as well, like Huadong Zhenghua Dashi, like they're all fantastic unis, and like you just need to find them.
I love the little sneaky Chinese added in stuff. Like,
And
Chinese,
because the
like,
thing
like,
is
Tsinghua.
that no one knows, like no one knows the English version of the uni.
Yeah, I know
the English names.
I don't know the English names.
So yeah, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's really cool actually.
Yeah.
Now that I think of it. Actually, just one more thing. Sorry, I know I mentioned this previously as well, but like, even if you like don't get this, I say this over and over, but even if you don't get the scholarship, like, don't worry. There's a bunch of, and I know Andrew and me both think this. There's a bunch of people who deserved this scholarship, like really do, and just for some reason didn't get it. Like at the end of the day, like it doesn't mean that you're any less of a person. Like if you get it, that's fantastic. If you don't, do not worry, you'll get there eventually. So I think that's really important to realize as well.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, just delve deeper into the application process
Yeah,
itself.
sure.
So we all had to do an application process with our universities first to like screen out. Each university sort of nominates 10 people, and in that application, there's actually certain criteria which we all have to answer questions to fulfill. Richard, did you want to like go through like the application process
sure,
and
why not?
like
Like,
what we needed to?
So basically, they like for the written application, they always give you 4 questions based on either academic, like it's academic excellence at tertiary level, leadership and engagement in community, adaptability and resilience, and also ability to contribute to NCP goals. From what I saw and what like my scholarship officer told me, it was always the NCP objectives that was the thing that tripped a lot of people up.
No, my office told me the same
Exactly,
thing.
because
Yeah.
it's just like everyone is focusing on like how does the exchange help me, but like you have to think about how it actually helps the scholarship program, right? Because like
It's a government-sponsored scholarship.
It's a government
yeah.
thing. It's like in the end, we are supposed to be sort of like plotting out the future of our whole Asia Pacific region. We're not supposed to just be like, oh, this helps me, this helps this.
You're supposed to be an ambassador for Australia.
Exactly, and not just that, but like remember that like if you do this scholarship, it's not just like the universities, like a university name's attached to you. It's like the whole Australian government's name's attached to you, right? Like
It's a lot bigger than just yourself.
yeah, exactly.
The
And like on top of
yeah.
that, like you see a lot of ambassadors and stuff like that talking to you, and like it's just like it's you can tell it's a very very big matter of prestige for Australia, like just to send these students over, and just talking.
It's a huge investment. Like it's a huge investment of taxpayer dollars. Yeah.
And like just talking about the other things, just real quickly, like academic excellence, it's like you should be okay as long as you get like a distinction, even if you like a distinction average. But even
I
if
think
you
the average the cutoff is 70%.
Yeah, 70%.
Whatever that is.
It's
for
a lot.
the
I think before it used to be a lot higher, like 85 or something. But now it's a lot lower.
No, it's 70%, but the average for NCP scholars is 80%.
Okay.
My average is not 80%. Just putting it up. If you're listening to this and being like, I'm nowhere like close to 80, do not worry. Just always just shove that app in. It's fine. Just shove that app in.
It's like, mom, no. I mean, my average is 100. Did you not know? No, but like, it's like academic excellence is a good big part of it. But like again, it's mostly you as a person that they care about, right? Like, even if like say like Florence said, like even if you don't actually like hit the mark cutoff and stuff like that, you'll be okay as long as that you can demonstrate to yourself and you can convince yourself and other people too that
Like it's a holistic application.
it's a holistic application, right?
Yeah.
And leadership and engagement and adaptability and resilience, those things are sort of just like they're a bit self-explanatory. Like leadership, it's always good. So the one thing I found that really impressed my NCP interview panel was when I was me talking about like my role on academic boards and stuff like that. because I was the undergraduate faculty rep for engineering, and I was just talking about like how I interacted with a lot of deans and stuff like that, and so I think like in the leadership department they really care like not just experience, but you need to demonstrate how your leadership experience like sort of like demonstrate change and stuff like that.
They're not even that, to be honest, they're not even that focused on the title. Like the title doesn't have to be that impressive. Like as long as you like have some sort of like example of what you did and how that involves leadership, that's fine.
Yeah, like,
so don't be too stressed.
Yeah, like, I think that they more care about the impact of it and stuff like that. Adaptability and resilience is more just like how do you get familiar to your surroundings? Have you ever been put in like an unfamiliar situation by yourself and actually had to make the most out of it or make the least out of it? It's a lot of like adaptability and resilience is very interesting because it's you can mention not only your leadership experience but your own personal experience as well. So there's a lot more room for you to breathe like in that little criteria. But yeah, like overall like as long as you sort of just like stay holistic and just remind yourself of these 4 things, you'll be okay.
But one thing I will hammer home with this is that it all sounds quite easy. I suppose as Richard said, they're pretty open things. But I can tell you that I spent ages writing and rewriting and editing. So I think one thing that's important about the New Colombo Plan when you're applying is that don't underestimate the amount of time it will take you. Like you're better to give you too much time than too little time because this stuff does take a while. It's not quick to do.
Yeah, like as Florence said, like it took me ages, like for me to write my stuff. I even though I said actually, yeah, you're right. Like I shouldn't have said it like that. I think like it's like you say that, but like you do put a lot of thought into it because it's 250.
It's
words.
not a lot of words, and sometimes like you want to put everything you've done, but then like also like sometimes you need to fill it, and it's like you need to give yourself time to consider
exactly.
how.
I want to cram 250 words of my entire life into all these criteria. How do I cram it?
And also, don't get complacent about your application. Like an application that might have gotten you through your university stage might not get you through the government stage. So at every stage, you need to be refining and editing that application.
Yeah, definitely. Because even when you pass a university level and you get a written transcript, everyone says, "Yeah, that seems really good." But it's never a guarantee for you to get into to government level. And actually, how many of you do you know if anyone actually got through to Canberra? Did anyone out of your 10 did anyone out of your 10 not go to Canberra? So I know there's one person that
because it does happen.
It does happen.
Do not be complacent. It's so easy because I know it's it's because I think if you think about it, you apply back in the first half of the year, what is it, April?
Around May.
Yeah. And you only get to know it about November. I can't remember.
Actually, that reminds me of one really important thing. Become good friends with your lecturers and your bosses. That helped me so much.
You need referees, don't you?
Yeah, my referee, because the issue is that during the university round they don't hound you for your referees very much. During the NCP round, they send your referees an email saying you have to fill out a big form with all those 4 attributes and just say explain to us why they believe you you deserve that. And I just think that you need to have really good referees because I think some people just didn't have solid referees.
No, and to be honest,
was that undoing.
Yeah, and at uni it's hard, right? I know a lot of people at uni find it difficult to because maybe their jobs, if they're waitressing and it's difficult if you're jumping around jobs to obviously find a referee. I know it's really difficult, but I suppose just with referees, just sort of think outside the box. Usually if there's a tutor that you struck up a rapport with, they're probably fine. You just sort of have to really. I mean, and this is sort of a lesson just generally is that when you find a connection, you sort of have to really, feed it and make sure that you're both happy with what's happening because that connection is what sort of helps you down the line and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Actually, what do you guys use as your references?
I used my Chinese teacher and I used my employer. So I was at a place for about a year, so I used my employer from that.
I think for me, I chose my research supervisor, who was also my lecturer at the time, and I also chose. I think it was either my boss. Was it my boss? I think it was. Was it 2 lecturers or was it it was my lecturer? Oh no, sorry. It was my lecturer and it was my friend from student council in university.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I was able to get 2 really solid references.
See, that's pretty out of the box. I wouldn't have thought of that. What about you, Andrew? What did you do?
I used my lecturer who I went on the study tour, China study tour with. So it was just right into my application.
Of course, perfect.
And then my employer as well.
Yeah. So I think that the takeaway is become good friends with your lecturer, become good friends with your employer.
Because I do think you need at least one academic referee. Right. So I mean, if you know that you need one academic referee, make sure it's a solid one. That's what I would say. Yeah. Absolutely.
And the next point would be, did you want to talk about interviews, Florence? About the actual interviews?
Yeah, sure.
For university and the final interview?
Sure. So as I said, I didn't get through the 2019 round. So I got cut off at the interview stage for uni.
Did they say why or?
sort of knew why. Like, I'm usually quite good with interviews, but this was just so they interviewed us last year at like I remember quite a busy time. I think it was like around exam period. So I had a lot of things on my mind. And I didn't really prep for the interview. And I think, like, to be honest, I'm actually like not bad at interviews, but like even if you're like feel like that you're not bad at something or you're confident in something, you do need to prepare for it. Like the NCP interview, like they do ask sometimes the question. Like I personally found like the questions at the UCID round were harder than the ones at the government round. So the questions they sort of asked us, they asked us about like our knowledge of where we were going, what was our plans, tell us a bit about yourself, what's not obvious from your application. So they asked us like a lot of questions which I sort of wasn't expecting. Yeah. And so when I know that a lot of people are the same, but when I get questions I don't expect, I usually don't react very well. I usually don't really know what to say. I'm laughing a lot. Like it's not the best look. So this time around I prepped a lot. So what happened is I found someone who had previously gotten the scholarship and they just gave me a list of questions that they got and I sort of just pounded that home. So I just memorized the answers for that because really once you sort of get a bank, you can just sort of chip and chop. Like they're not going to ask you, for example, how do you make a creme caramel? Like most of the questions, like they're going to be able to like predict in some way or not if you like know what other people have asked. So by the time I went to the government, I was actually prepping a lot for that interview. I'd like say like in like, I started prepping like intensely for that interview maybe 3 weeks prior. Yeah. And then every night after that, I'd maybe do one like an hour or 2 hours a night. Like I know it sounds ridiculous, and I'm thinking
I did that as well.
It sounds so pathetic, but like I was so desperate, man. Like, I was so desperate.
You're giving me bad memories now. So like again, like that really bad subject I was doing, I'd spend like 12 hours in my labs every single day because the subject was just damn hard. Like they required so many contact hours. I remember like in between like every single like 30 minutes I used to like walk out of my lab for 30 minutes and my partner was like, what the hell are you doing? Like why are you mumbling to yourself? I'm like, no, nothing because I was just repeating the speech back to myself again and again. And like I said, it's really important to like sort of prep. Like everyone has different prep methods, but I think the one I used was that like I just wrote some general notes, and after I sort of just like worked like I put some dot points down. I worked using the dot points to answer every single question, and that was really helpful to me. But like again, like I'm honestly speaking, like I'm probably the opposite of Florence. Like I hate English. Like I genuinely like, I did engineering because I wanted to stay away from it. Like what do you think I did? Yeah, I did engineering because I love English. No, of course not.
That actually brings me something important. Is that sometimes it's also good to prep because you sort of don't know what you'll say until you're there. So like I have a number of filler stuff that I say or things that which I should not say. So just to sort of iron that out, because once you're in when you're in that sort of environment, people that you don't know under pressure, like you do weird stuff. So it's good to sort of just get rid of that. Just nip that in the bud when you can.
Like honestly speaking, like that makes me sort of depressed because like I had like adrenaline moments. Like do you have adrenaline moments? Like when during an interview, like you just feel a shot of adrenaline, you're just like I'm gonna start talking for 30 minutes now.
Yeah,
I might say
completely.
something. Yeah, like honestly, yeah, like I think I made a couple of small blunders, but I'm really
happy with this, I remember like in my NCP interview, I thought I really messed it up because like I was just by the end of it I was like, blah, 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 blah. I was speaking so fast. So just for guys guys know, when you go into the government interview, you usually have a panel of 3, so they're usually people who are really big in the area that you're going to. Then you'll usually have a representative from DFAT, and you'll have someone who's typing up your interview. And I was speaking so fast that my poor typer was just furiously just like banging this keyboard, and I felt so embarrassed. I remember exiting that interview and just thinking that I absolutely messed it up, and I bought myself like an ice cream and just sat on the side of the road eating it. Like I was just like, I don't know, like you know what I mean? Like you know how there are some people who are like, I did so well and I didn't do really well. And there's people who I think I did terribly, you know. So it's just like, even if you think you messed it up, fingers crossed, maybe it'll be okay.
Like I remember the one thing I messed up was just like, yeah, Aussies are really relaxed. Like, you know, like I wouldn't mind like getting a beer with an Aussie and just like chilling. I just like then the interview was just like, so Aussies like to drink beer. I'm like, oh. I mean, no. But like, yeah, and like I think the other thing that the other like the piece of advice I got from my university was that they were just like, oh yeah, like what's it called? You need to be able to demonstrate what you say. Is another thing.
Yes.
Like,
you can't just be empty words.
Yeah, because like, that was a massive thing that I did. Actually, like another really good example. So yeah, I was going to get to that. So a good example of that was just like I was just like, I want to mend Australia and Singapore relationships by by working and like by increasing the commercial ties and stuff like that. So how? Like is there going to be like a blue elephant that jumps down and says,
no, that's a really good point, Richard.
You get what I mean? So I was just like, I'll organize something with my boss. like I'll talk to the board of directors about it. I'll talk to them about like my
And
Singapore
this sort of
experience.
stuff really fits under the last criteria, which is where
Yeah.
people mess up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just that, but yeah, and then I think a really good way to do that is like, just like, talk to your boss about it, like, ask them for something a bit more concrete. Like, and another really good thing I think to do is just like plan ahead. Like even if it's like empty planning, like it seems really impressive. Like I remember I emailed the NTU Heritage Society and I said, can I join? And I was like, yeah, and I used that as a part of my application. I was like, I already pre-applied.
You can never do too much planning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I already pre-applied. I already said to the NTU Heritage Society I wanted to join. I was very, very keen. And I used that as a part of my application. I think it worked. So yeah, like I think that's another
Proof is in the pudding.
Proof is in the pudding. Yes.
Yeah.
Proof is in the pudding. Yeah.
Okay, Florence and Richard, did you guys both want to go more deeper into the programs for NCP? Because Florence is heading over to China in Feb,
Yes.
and Richard is heading in
So like
in 2 weeks.
Yeah. No, that's
Hi,
in a
Richard.
week. That's not from January. And he starts on the 14th, bro.
Yeah,
So it starts
that's
ultra
good.
early. So I need to start.
Why don't you go first, Richard, because your program starts first then.
Oh, alright. no, like so basically, like my program is 4 months of study in NTU, and also I'm gonna have language training weaved into it. Like the issue with language training is it's so hard, like navigating between the different funding brackets. Like there's so many different rules and stuff like that. It's a bit of a pain, but you do what you do, right? And like the other thing is what's it called? Like in NTU. There's another thing that I sort of realized that I don't know if any of you realize is that like you have a choice between choosing really hard subjects that really exemplify what your university is good at, that sort of help you move along, or you can choose really easy subjects. But I think it's a bit more like it's a bit more what's it called, like it's a bit more evident in my program because I'm a 6-month program. I've been talking to people who do 6 months, but you're going for 1.5 years, so it's a bit different for you. It's like you can't exactly hide from your hard subjects, but like I sort of just realized that a lot of people want to just do the easier subjects, but like I don't think, like from an engineering perspective, right, like it's not a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea just to do the easier subjects because it sort of kills the whole purpose of you going to like a very prestigious university. And on top of that, like engineering is built on hard skills, like soft skills, hard skills. Like engineering is pretty much like the exemplification of hard skills, right? You want to maximize your hard skills while you're over there. So like 2 subjects that I'm doing are like operating system and signals. They're pretty hard. They're pretty well known for being pretty mathematically demanding and pretty hard, and like in a lot of different areas. But like I'm doing it because like it helps me and it helps me as an engineer, like demonstrate my skills and all those other things. So yeah, I think that's something to look out for. And after that, I'll be working for my boss in Singapore for like roughly 2 months. So yeah, like my program is pretty typical, just study and work. So like I think like if you have bosses, like the one takeaway I'll give to you viewers is that like if you have
Listeners,
viewers, kapish kapash, like if you have bosses or anyone else who like in a profession that has like Singapore offices or China offices or stuff like that, take the scholarship. Like haggle with your boss for 30 haggle with your boss for 30 minutes and just go through it because it will be really good for you. So yeah.
Was there a reason why you chose Singapore as a destination, and like was there like a linkage between what you studied and like what you want to do as a career?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, like NTU has the world's 5th best engineering university in the world. I work in cybersecurity, so like a lot of my the Singaporean government has a very, very big cybersecurity program. So like yeah, like there's a lot of different things in Singapore. And on top of that, like boss. So like the stars really did align for me for Singapore, honestly. So yeah, like again, it's more just like because I really like to answer that in like one short line. I really want to exemplify my hard skills and like deepen my skills in engineering, like and my math skills to a very, very high degree in an Asian setting, and to also just like work in Singapore as well. So yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
And Florence?
Sure. So as Richard said, my program is a bit longer. So as I mentioned before, the one compulsory component of the New Colombo Plan Scholarship is that you have to do it in exchange overseas. And actually just as a sort of admin thing, which I'll mention before I continue, because this is compulsory, if you want before you get funding, you have to complete an entire checklist, which me and Richard obviously have been working through. And that includes that you've been admitted to your host university and you've got an approved credit for
I
it.
already finished it.
Yeah. Good work, Richard.
So I just had to flex there.
Anyway, but what I'm saying is like it's a really important part to like do. So anyway, first I'm going to exchange to Shanghai, and then I'm going to do 6 months. So you can do language training for up to 6 months. So I'm doing language training in a town called Guilin, and then going back to Beijing. And then I'll continue hopefully working in Shanghai after that. So I think what was I going to say? I forgot now. Anyway, so for me, as I mentioned before, like for me, like I really want to get my Chinese to a working proficiency. So as I'm studying law, and I want to make sure that my Chinese is good enough that I can quite, easily exist in a law context using Chinese. So I suppose like choosing really good programs, like for me, was really important, as was making sure I was in a city where I could get those connections and go into workplaces where I could use those newly acquired skills. I think that's what I would say about it. Oh, one thing that I will actually also expand on Richard is when he was talking about how preparation is really important. So even before I got on the new Colombo plan, I had researched like the language programs and the exchange opportunities like to death. So by the time that I actually got the new Colombo Plan Scholarship, it was really just like a matter of putting it all in place, like choosing that I want to do X, Y, and Z, and that's the end of it. Because like I know when you're applying for the new Colombo Scholarship, that really does take up a lot of your time, just like the application process itself. But actually creating your program is sort of a separate thing. Like you have a lot of people who perhaps might focus on the application, but forget what the program, what they actually want to do. So I wouldn't forget that. Like, and as Richard said, you much rather over research than under research, to make sure that you're really getting the most out of what is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Because I know that all of us are really, really honoured to get the scholarship, and
and not just that, but like for me, like my original plan was like I had a plan B, because before I got the full scholarship, I had a mobility scholarship that was sitting in my pocket. So like I planned around a mobility scholarship, and how I got to my new Colombo Plan Scholarship, like the full one, was I just sort of adapted my mobility plan scholarship into my new Colombo Plan Scholarship. Yeah. I think that's a really good thing, because like it's so uncertain, right? Like,
it's incredibly uncertain.
It's so scary too, because like you just see like, oh wow, there's like 90 people. Oh wait, there's 10 people. Oh wait, there's just me and like 5 other people. like the numbers really dwindle quickly. So like you do feel like, I think that's why some people like don't want to like research the whole program.
You need to think.
So I think it's a better idea for you to like have a plan B and then adapt the plan B into the new Colombo Plan Scholarship. So like you can sort of go from there. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
And it also helps because like I think like for me, I did lots of plan Bs and Cs as well, because I wanted to make sure that even if I didn't get the scholarship, like I'd be able to bounce back, and feel positive about everything. It's a very, 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 very real like possibility. So I think it's always great to have B's, C's, D's, and E's sort of plans. I think they're great.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Did you want to elaborate on your language training choices? Like you mentioned Guilin, which is like
sure. So I think one of the hardest things to choose when you're doing this sort of stuff is, I think one of the reasons why the government has chosen the Asia-Pacific is that not a lot of people know about it. Like, I mean, in terms of like, obviously they know about it, like they see it on the news and stuff, but in terms of like what they can actually do on the ground, or like administrative wise, how to do X and Y, that's a lot more murky. So when I said language training, so I was quite, as I mentioned before, I was quite beneficial because I was previously on exchange at Peking University where I did Chinese for a bit. So that was really good because it sort of gave me an idea of what I wanted in language training, like what I wanted it to be like, how challenging I wanted it to be, and so forth. So from that experience, I learned so much from that. And I was there without a scholarship, so that was self-funded.
Oh,
so
self-funded?
Yeah, that was self-funded.
Yeah.
So you should, even if there's always another way. But anyway, what I'm saying is that from there I realized that I really wanted a really advanced of Chinese, and I also wanted one-on-one. So the ones I've chosen have a very small class ratio. So I think it's like max teacher students like 3-1, and like they're also quite advanced courses as well. Because I sort of put it this way, I don't want to leave the semester having only known the colours of the rainbow. So like that was quite important to me as well. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. I think we'll leave it there. And if you have any other questions about the NCP, feel free to submit it, and we'll probably get someone else or either of these guys to answer them. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
That's all right. All good.
It's all good. Thank you.